I do want to welcome two fabulous guests we have here, Nishi and Umesh. Umesh runs the Hippocampus schools, very well regarded in the Bangalore area. And in addition to Rakhi's introduction, I just want to say the school I visited in Hassan, Umesh, that is what moved the needle for me. This is 100 miles outside of Bangalore, about 150 kilometers, I think. Small town, and with all the challenges, middle to low income fee school, smashing job. Smashing job. Now, he wasn't there. His team was there. I went in a car with Rahul, spent 3 hours there. I came back. I want to be associated in some way. And so we made a small investment in Hippocampus last year and we associated. But I thought it would be nice to share that up front. So with those words, I'm going to walk right there, sit next to my friends, and we'll have a chat. Okay, great. Wonderful. Thank you again both for coming. Umesh, how do you think about this business and how do you explain it to others? I mean, your parents and your communities. How do you get this idea across that you're trying to do something different from others?
I think that's the difficult one. That's a question I had for Andreas too. Right? But I will start with some
Maybe
of
that's why the connection dropped. Yeah.
So I'll start with there's nothing better than doing it. The first time, so I'm not an educator. I don't have an educator's degree. I stumbled in education. But I knew this is what we want to do. We wanted to create a child who could think. And that came from my experience in the corporate world and seeing people who joined even from the IITs and IIMs and who were struggling with their thinking. And thinking as defined by Ashish across a spectrum of things, right? Resilience, creativity, caring, multiple things. And we felt that, you have to get children to think as young as children as 3, as 4. To get them to think. And I think what we did was we created programs, trained teachers to run classrooms where children would think. The first 3 to 4 months, the parents thought we were just taking them for a ride. They were like, what the heck's happening here in the classroom? I see children playing. I see children talking. I don't see discipline. And I'm now taking the context of rural India, small village, population 5,000 people. In 4 to 5 months, we saw the same parents coming back who were at us in the first month, 2 months, saying, what are you guys doing? Turn around and say, something is changing. And they would come back and tell us examples of walking with their 4-year-old child in the village, and the child would see a temple. South Indian temples have a gopuram, right? And the child would look at the father and say, triangle. Right? And they would come back and start narrating multiple such examples. So I think the only way you can do it is by doing it. And, and obviously you have to work on getting quick wins. So nobody's going to wait for a year. In 3 to 4 months, you have to start showing results of a thinking child happening. And I think that's the only advice I have, Ashish, on how you actually make it happen.
Oh, lovely. Very nice. I think these stories are what kind of bring your experience to life. And that's what's ultimately useful. Umesh, again, a very rich tapestry, that super fancy library in Koramangala, then preschools, now K-12 schools in all kinds of diverse contexts. If you were to pick a thread of 1 or 2 things that work, what is it?
What we also found is putting some power into the hand of a learner, the child. Because teachers can do a lot of things, but there's just a certain amount they can do. With the audiences we work with, they don't come from privilege. And we notice that these children actually have a lot of potential, and you need to put power in their hands. And I use the word power because we start our journey as a library. We were a library first, and now we are a school, right? It's been a 20-year journey. And in our work with libraries, we notice that if you're actually able to make a child a good reader, the child starts taking control of his or her learning. And I use the library of books as an example of saying, how do you actually put the power in a child's hand? And there's similar examples. Today, the digital revolution, tools like Khan Academy and others have actually started helping us to put the power in the child's hand. So along with what you're doing with the teachers, if you sort of complement that with what you can do with children doing it themselves, chances of magic happening are higher.
Amazing. Put the power in the hands of the kid, put the power in the hands of people who want to do it, and that becomes the first step to moving in this direction. Now, we have a lot of people here, some who've made very big leaps in the last many years, and some who are perhaps considering and looking to make change and wondering how to go about it, maybe more skeptical, is it worth it, how do I do it? In orchestrating change, what are some of the things to watch out for? If someone is determined to improve their school and make it better, what would be your advice to our colleagues here? Maybe Umesh, if you want to go based on, and I know you face some really solid challenges along the way.
The most common answer is patience. You can't change things overnight. And I think we have all heard about the value of patience. But I would add something on the word trust. It's important to articulate what you're trying to change, why you're doing it, and standing by it. Whether it's with the teachers or with the parents. And over the period of the 6 months to 1 year, you will actually get, a lot of resistance from people who don't want the change. क्यों कर रहे हो? ये अच्छा नहीं है. हम पढ़ाई, exam करवाएंगे, ये करेंगे. So you have to stick your neck out, because they are waiting for you to buckle down. They are waiting for you to give in, right? And once you give in, then you have lost the battle. So I think it's a combination of being patient. It will take time. You need to make people aware of it, but you also need to build trust, because I personally believe that only when you build the trust, the brand gets built with the parents saying, ये लोगों ने कुछ बोला था 1 साल पहले, and they're doing what they said, in spite of me coming to them and saying what you're doing is wrong. And they're willing to stick their neck out and prove it. Unfortunately, many of us lose that whole thing in the first 6 months to 1 year, where we give up and we say, बहुत गाली मिल रही है. Right? Can't handle the pressure. So I think I would add that part of it, the trust along to the patience.
Voice of experience, truly.
See, one of the great things about running a school, a thinking school, is the school just changes. The children and the teachers start actually having more fun in school than they were doing in a traditional school. You ask them to go back to the rote school,
they don't want to go.
They're like, nahi, वैसा नहीं करने का हमको. The children and the teachers start protesting. So actually it's that maybe the first 12 months of change. So I have seen that once you actually taken that medicine for the first year and you've got past, it's like doing yoga, right? For people who do yoga. Once you've got past that, there's no other way of living. So I have seen that happen so well for both teachers and students across an economic spectrum. And I think that's the magic of what we are doing. We don't realize it, we don't say it to ourselves enough. But once you create a thinking environment in the school just changes and doesn't want to go back to what it was.
So, from your perspectives, what would be those 1 or 2 things that you're really curious about right now, or are looking for an answer, don't have a perfect one? Feel free to share.
Parents send their children to our schools because they want their children to grow up and be successful and good citizens, And unfortunately, in the Indian context, success even now is defined by the exams they pass and the marks they get, right? I think what worries me is, we know that we have to get these children to do well in their examination. There is no running past that. But what we are trying to do with the thinking child is to go beyond the examinations. Right? We all know that, a child who got 99% or a child who got 95%, both can still do very well in life. Right? And sometimes a child who got 95% might do much better in life than a child who got 99%. But how do I convince the parent that life is not just about cracking the exam and getting 95, 98, pushing the child, pushing. And today parents push the child because they want the child to be secure. It's not because of anything else. They want a child to be safe and secure in the future. How do I convince the parent, and that's what gives me sleepless, how do I convince the parent to be patient? Wait for the results of thinking child to go beyond just the class 10 and class 12 exam. To give it time for what they have learned in the early years to help them succeed through their life. Don't have an answer for that, right? Because, the parents do get into a quandary, come 8th, 9th and saying, nahi, examination, tuition karwane ka, and you're like, oh, acha karega. Do not stop him from doing other things. Do not stop him from... I think that's what we struggle with. So I think that's what gives me sleepless nights. I don't have an answer for that. Big question on how do we... And for children, for the parent, it's one child, two children. At first, we are dealing with thousands of children. Make a difference to. They feel so committed to that responsibility they have. How do you give them the confidence to, run that longer race is something which I struggle with or think about or have sleepless nights with.
So with those thoughts, I'm going to thank both of you, Nishi and Umesh. Please give them a big hand.
Thank you.
Thank you to our distinguished panelists. It's great to hear about how each of yours journey towards the common goal of improving education, and especially how the thinking child has remained the center of your work. And the ways you're bringing it alive in your classrooms by bringing the right environment, having a coherent group of teachers, and of course, like Umesh sir said, tons of patience.